Welcome to episode 263 of the Brainy Business, Understanding the Psychology of Why People Buy. In today's episode, I'm excited to introduce you to Gina Bianchini, CEO of Mighty and author of Purpose. Ready? Let's get started.
You are listening to the Brainy Business Podcast, where we dig into the psychology of why people buy and help you incorporate behavioral economics into your business, making it more brain-friendly. Now here's your host, Melina Palmer.
Hello, everyone. My name is Melina Palmer, and I want to welcome you to the Brainy Business Podcast. In today's conversation, I am joined by Gina Bianchini, author of the book Purpose, Design a Community and Change Your Life. Gina is also the CEO and founder of Mighty, where creators, entrepreneurs, and brands build digital communities and courses with cultural software, myself included. The Be Thoughtful revolution has been on Mighty networks for almost 2 years now. In 2019, Gina launched the Community Design Masterclass, where over 8,000 people have learned how to build a community so valuable you can charge for it, and so well designed it essentially runs itself. Before Mighty, she was the CEO and co-founder of Ning, a pioneering global platform for creating social networks she started with Marc Andreessen in 2004. Gina has been featured in Fast Company, Wired, Vanity Fair, Fortune, Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, and the New York Times. She's appeared on CNBC, CNN, and Charlie Rose. Before we get into the conversation, I want to be sure you know that there are links in the show notes for everything, including Gina's book and contact information and related past episodes like the one on the network effect. It's all within the app you're listening to and at thebrainybusiness.com/263. Now let's jump right in. Gina Bianchini, welcome to the Brainy Business Podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yay. I'm so excited. It's, I gave you a little bit of the backstory of, knowing who you were when I got the pitch for you to come be on the show, because I've used your, product is the right term, right?
Product, platform, software.
Yeah, I've used it for a long time now, and went through the arduous process of moving to it, right? So that's where not that there's any issue with moving into your system as much as leaving any existing system and moving in is never fun. So it was totally worth it. Very excited. And so for everyone then that doesn't yet know you and who you are and what you do, can you share about your background and how you found yourself in this space?
Yes. So grew up in Cupertino, California, found myself at sort of the intersection of technology and community pretty early on, especially in the early days of social networking that has evolved into social media. And my passion is in bringing to life a world where each and every one of us have 3, 4, 5 different communities that are interesting and allow us to explore different parts of our personality and the different areas of our lives in a way that feels normal and natural to meet other people, break the ice, build relationships, and to have just a very diversified, interesting, compelling exploration of life in all of its different ways. And so that is how I got to building Mighty, which is a platform, software platform for people to be able to create new, not just communities, but we really think about it as new digital cultures around mastering something interesting and important together. And as part of that effort, I launched really out of my own curiosity and my own drive to understand something I call the Community Design Masterclass. And community design, the promise of the framework is to create a community so valuable that you can charge for it if you want. You don't have to. And so well designed that it essentially attracts people in and runs itself. So how to create a community where people are building real relationships that are exploring new topics together And ultimately, I always think about this moment of, the best party any of us have ever been to in our lives tends to be something where we look around and look at the people that we're surrounded by and say to ourselves, oh man, this is awesome. These people are awesome. I'm like feeling the most heightened set of emotions in a positive way that I have felt. And so that's what I build towards. That's why I started software and then an online course. And now, in seeing so many people get success through the Community Design Masterclass, actually take those concepts and build on them with how do I help and maybe can play a small role in more and more people around the world being able, which sounds so, so humble, but really to help people around the world find their purpose and translate it into action across many different dimensions. And again, I just keep coming back to across everything I'm doing and every place that I want to invest my time, my talents, my energy, my focus is around how do we lead an extraordinary life? How do we explore our curiosity in all sorts of different ways around our career, our health, our wellness, our other important interests, and ultimately bring context and connection back to where we spend our time and how we take full advantage of technology to realize something deeper, more meaningful, and a lot more vibrant.
Yeah, I love all of that. And as I said, the be
You're
thoughtful.
Like,
yeah, community purpose, man, right? But the be thoughtful revolution is my community, which is inside of Mighty Networks, and it is a similar, bringing people together, having great conversation, having that connection point. And I really like that in your book, you talk about, that transition from social network to social media and the, seeing that was very like an ominous moment for you of saying, oh, something's different here, where, maybe that went under the radar for a lot of people, but being able, what's the difference and why does that matter?
Yeah. So social networks are where we are making connections and building real relationships between people. So the network, and specifically a network that gets more valuable to each and every one of us with each new person who joins and contributes, that is powerful. And it was how social platforms grew, including the one that I ran with Ning, grew so fast, all organically. And then around 2009, 2010, there was this very quiet and subtle shift from social networks, which put people at the center of them. And it was open to everybody to make different connections and build different kinds of relationships. In pursuit of growth, we moved very quietly and very subtly from networks to media. So what is the difference? So with media, it is about building an audience or a following. And now, instead of it being about how are we creating really interesting networks that we're all benefiting from, and that even people can create, a creator or somebody who, I talk about them as hosts, just the ability to bring people together the way that you have brought people together around a specific interest, around a specific goal, around a specific topic. Now, the goal was to build the biggest audience possible. And so now as a creator, I would talk out at my audience. My audience may talk back to me, and no one is building relationships with each other. And then on top of that, so the networks still exist. They're being hidden from view. And it's all about then, what the emergence of what we talk about as the algorithm, this mysterious thing that defines our attention and stands in the way of us being able to create our own network and our own network effect that would allow us as creators, as entrepreneurs, as small business owners to build the strongest networks possible for our purposes. Now we have to fit into, I have to build the biggest audience possible. The ways that I build big audiences are changing all the time and tend to involve. I now have to pay those same platforms a lot of money to even reach the people that I worked very hard or paid to reach in the first place. I think there is a non-zero correlation. I won't go as far as to say causation, between this shift from social networks and the novelty and the excitement and the beauty of what it means to create a community or a network around an interest, a passion, a goal that has purpose, that has a quest associated with it, to a world where we are audience. We are passive consumers of content and content alone, as opposed to all the things that allow us to build new and interesting digital cultures and really participate and contribute to them in meaningful and powerful ways.
Yeah. And I'm hopeful that, and I think people that are listening to this probably have felt some of that, but when you explain it and you see the shift and say like, yeah, that sucks, right? Like, I don't like that either. And it really also transitioned the way that people frame the content that they put out, right? So I am creating content that's most likely to snag a following, right? And there's all you look back into the, early Twitter, and we don't need to talk about Twitter today, but like, I remember in, 2010, so like right around that same time frame you were talking about, that there was a really big focus on that you needed to be having as many people following you as possible and follow as little people as possible. And that was the big goal, to show how cool you were, right? So if I have 100,000 followers, but I'm following 100,000 people, that's lame. But if I have 50,000 and I only follow 10 people, like, whoa, you're really cool, right? And, these days you have the, guaranteed follow backs, to try which isn't really good either. Because again, where's the engagement? Why are we even here? I was just filling out something, and I have said this a few times. It's like social media. So I always talk about putting the social back in social media, right? Because there's none of that a lot of the time. And it's like the social bullhorn is what it is. It's just like megaphone of everyone listen to me, and constantly looking to see, has anyone liked my post yet? I'm not going to go like or comment on anyone else's stuff, but I really just want more people to find and listen to me, which.
Well, and it's, so it's got a number of challenges. So number one, we are not happier across any demographic, any age group, any gender, any level, socioeconomic level. Across the board, we are not happy and less happy the more time we spend in this system. And yet we are spending more time in this system. The average American spends 3.5 hours a day on social media platforms. And yet they are reporting fewer friends, less happiness than even 20 years ago. So we've got some real challenges with the system. I sometimes just in a sense of gallows humor, think about it as like, we're all living our lives at like 3 a.m. in a casino where we really need to go to bed, but at the same point in time, we're still there. Right. And we're still up. And when I think about, okay, so what's the path out of here? What's the path out of here? And what's so fascinating to me about the path out of here is, number one, content, I have gotten comfortable with the fact that social as a term is dead. It's like it will never mean something else than what it means today with I talk out at you, you talk back at me, and no one's talking to each other. And whenever people challenge me on that, which I sometimes get challenged on, I'm like, when was the last time you were in a comment section and made a new friend? That you were like, oh my gosh, I'm like now connected and building a real relationship with somebody in the comment section, or, in a live, like a live stream chat. It does not happen because it's not set up that way. That's not the point. The point is that we are designed to say isolated and separate. So we keep coming back into this system. And then the content that we're creating in social media and consuming in social media is all about fighting for 3 seconds of attention. Now, what we know about people is that when you can go deeper and you can, as we talk about in psychology, find flow. That is where we are happiest. When we can play, when we can connect, when we can have flow. So what my mission is, I've certainly tried to rationalize our way into a new world of multiple communities where you can go deeper. And it doesn't work. And so what is that emotional connection? What are those emotional reasons for spending more and more time? And it really comes down to meaning. It comes down to how do we build software for more engagement, better experience, being able to showcase the people, for example, in your community to each other so that you have those emotional, visceral moments where you can look around a virtual space. You can look around a real space because of the fact you can see members near you and know that you are living your best life. It's the opposite of 3 a.m. in a casino. It is those moments where you are like, I am home and I am engaged. I'm not even engaged. I think that word has also just been bastardized of meaning. And for me, it is about, I am invigorated. I am energized, and I am looking around and I am saying to myself, I am a part of something bigger. I am a part of something that means something. I am a part of something with clear intention and the opportunity to create change in my own life, as well as the lives around us and around any of us.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that I really loved about Mighty Networks when I decided to move over to it was that people can find others near them and create their own little meetups and be able to, have other conversations and, blossoming in that way that it can become its own thing in a way that was really exciting. And you mentioned it very briefly. I have an episode on the network effect, which I'm going to have be, it's top recommended for people to listen to in tandem, after this one. But can you share a little bit, because guaranteed you know way more about network effects than anything that I do. So can you share a little bit about what that means and how that works?
A network effect, by definition, is any time that there are more nodes in the network. So let's just take a people example. So when a new person joins, that new person who joins creates value and more value for everybody else in the network. So the classic example of a network effect is the telephone. A phone is not particularly valuable if you are the only one using it. Now, the minute that you have 3 people or 4 people, now a phone is starting to become more valuable. So now let's fast forward 100 years to social networks, or I like to think about them as community networks. With every new person who joins your community, for example, they are bringing their curiosity, their questions, their life experiences, their own learning, and what they can share in terms of those experiences, that knowledge, their ideas, and therefore every other member is now in a position to take advantage of the contributions that that new member makes. And that new member is able to get a lot more value from your community because of the contributions other members are making. So think about how different that is than an audience where it's just about the numbers. You like whether you are talking out to 30 people or you are talking out to 300 people or you are talking out to 3,000 people or 3 million people, it really doesn't benefit any individual audience member because they're not learning the stories, experiences, and ideas of other members. So one, guess who has to do all the work? The content creator. In a community or a network, it's about shifting your role from, I think about it and talk about it in the book, is shifting your role from the hero. Like, I need to have all the answers. It's about, people are following me. They're here for me, to a host, which is, I define it as bringing people together with intention. So why are you joining? How do I, as the host of a community, facilitate the conversations and connections between my members so that I always think about the analogy of a party where, my perfect party is when I can go to bed and people are still there stoked to be talking and having a great time together because at that point I've done my job. And especially as small business owners, as individual creators, as people that are thinking about how do I make an impact in the lives of other people? How do I help them realize their fullest potential? That's what so many of us who start as content creators are really looking to do. It is so much better for us to play the role of host, which is less work, more value for everybody involved, and also feeds the system and scales the system of a network effect. Because the other thing that's really cool about a community or network is as people are sharing their stories, experiences, and reactions to what you're contributing, your content is getting better. It is getting better with less work. It is getting more valuable, not just to your network and your network effect, but then to the new people that you are able to go out and reach and then bring into your community or network. So one of the things that I am really focused on for the first half of 2023 is how do we help more people realize the value of starting with community and then using that to expand and build bigger audiences faster that are more valuable to not only that audience, but the more people who come into that community because it is a network and network effect.
Yeah. And we are a herding species at the end of the day, like guppies and sheep and all of that. And we're very tribal. And, your book gets into some of the background of how, for the vast majority of human existence, we had our kind of forced, very close networks, and you were very much, having interactions with people, supporting them, being part of the tribe, part of the herd. And we built some affinity groups in some ways, but really kind of stuck with what we had and maybe moved to a new one, but not in the way that we have these global networks now. I'm going to be linking also in the show notes to a really great book called The Power of Us, and my interview with Dominic Packer, one of the authors of that book, talking about how we shift identities so much throughout the day. And so what I love about the vision and what you've talked about here and what we used to have, when you really think about, you have, I have my behavioral science friends, and I have had knitting friends, and I have Harry Potter friends, which I love that there are some Harry Potter references, of course, in the book. Of course. As there must always be.
Always.
Yep. And I have mom friends, and I have singer, vocalist, bandmates and friends. And when I am going from all these different identities throughout my life and throughout the day, we're constantly shifting through them, and having the support to build that up and to find others like you is so fulfilling. And but we lose so much of that even before the pandemic when we couldn't go out and find people and connect in that way. But there is such an opportunity through social networks and through things like Mighty, where you're able to focus on building that and like those little sparks, and where you find and go, oh, my people, I'm here. I found it. Right. But we could have lots of them, and we should have lots of them.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I think a lot about, it's about finding not a singular purpose, but purposes. And what I think is so fascinating is we sacrificed context for massive numbers. So in removing all friction and, if we think about so much, like most people are not that, again, like more time in social, less happiness. And yet, what are the things that are keeping a lot of folks, myself included, in the systems? It's, well, I don't want a new login. As one of my friends said the other day, they're like, I have an app and a login for my coffee mug. The idea that I don't have, like, that I'm too busy to have these communities that play to and shore up and explore different parts of my personality, which, by the way, is what defines a well-lived life. It brings us novelty. It brings us belonging. It brings us excitement. It brings us connection to make those shifts between your mom friends and your singer friends and your different parts of your personality. That is a well-lived life. That is where you get resilience. Because if one community goes sideways, you've got other aspects of your identity and your personality and your connection and where and how you self-actualize, but more importantly, how you transcend in terms of your ability then in all this portfolio, kind of like the way that like our grandparents or great grandparents would buy like 3 stocks. And then like there was this massive move to mutual funds and having a stock or a financial portfolio. Why? Because it's more resilient. You get better rewards, better returns with less risk. The same is true for how we spend our time. And when we look at our ability to not just be a member, but also a host of different communities, I believe that the world bends towards these kinds of different facets of our personality and our lives. And it's again, a future that I am excited to be building towards.
Yeah, definitely. I think that that's exciting and a good way for people to be able to, think about what you provide people when you create a community like this. And knowing, in the book, you talk about how you need to be specific, what we might relate to a niching down sort of thing. So people can tell that that's where they're supposed to be. But one of my very, very, very favorite things in what you talk about in your book is so I've talked about the power of story and how our brain responds to storytelling and how we need stories actually to be able to make decisions. And so being able to have that relatability, and there's lots of cool brain chemical stuff going on there. But we talk about the hero's journey all the time. And so much advice is about being the hero of your own story. And you have to be the hero of your own story. And if you're the hero and who's the villain, blah, blah, blah. We've heard that way too many times. But you recommend to not be the hero of the story and look at writing the story with you as the Dumbledore, the Gandalf, the mentor. Can you share about it?
The allies. Yes.
Right.
So first and foremost, the rugged individualism, it's not working out that well for us. A system that is designed to keep us apart, to keep us, I think one of the most destructive concepts is this idea of personal branding. This idea that it's like, I have to be perfect and I have to put out and then, matched by, now I need to be authentic, and then we're authentic and, I have to go perfect, whatever. The point is that when you really get into not even the hierarchy of needs, but really a network of needs, because after you get through, security and physical, meeting your physical needs, all of the different things related to beauty and realizing your own fullest potential, and really the highest order is, how are you helping other people realize their fullest potential? And that just might be because of joy, of entertainment, helping people laugh. But so many people today either think it's too hard to be a host, or I think about it as hosting is sort of the overarching definition of how we either are a great friend, bringing people together, a guide, a mentor, a teacher, an organizer. But fundamentally, when you think about your ability to embrace transcendence and help people realize their fullest potential, it's not as a hero and showing people what a hero you are. It's because you are playing the role of helping other people become the hero and to find their allies and take on challenges, learn and build new skills and new ways of being in the world that allow us to reach heights that we will never be able to achieve on our own. And when I think about all of that, look, you don't have to be an old white guy or like a small green dude to be able to play that role of host, of guide, of mentor, a facilitator. And I believe passionately that the role of host is the most important and will continue to be the most valuable role any of us can play in our professional lives, in our personal lives, in our social lives through this decade and decades to come. Because we as society, and it's global, we are losing the skills and the muscles to be able to do hosting, to offer people the ability to bring them together with intention. And I see that every day in my work. It's one of the reasons why I've taken on a really meaty challenge, because I believe that the way to encourage and invite more people to become hosts is by making it really explicit how to do it, and then building software to make those things easier and easier and easier to do.
Yeah. So the other thing that's tied to that I really love is this idea of, so I constantly talk about framing, and I'm all about questions, and that questions are more important than answers. And that I tell my clients, and I say on the podcast all the time, it's really easy to find the right answer to the wrong question.
It's so well said.
And what I find most in working with companies is that they're spending way too much, trying to solve the wrong problem. And so, if we spend more time thinking about the questions and evaluate more before we jump into problem solving, we're able to do a lot more and make sure we're working on the right thing. And so with that, even just this slight reframe, a tiny change in the question can change your direction drastically, right? So if you think about in your business, so this is, this podcast is for entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs who are looking to, build something cool.
Which, by the way, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Happy. Yeah.
For all who are listening, thank you for your work. You probably don't hear it enough.
Yeah. We love you.
We love you.
So with that, asking the question of, how can I change the world? How can I build my community, right? That's like, how do I build an audience? How do I increase my footprint? Fine. That's the type of question we've been asking. But if you just say, how can I build something that people are excited to be a part of? How can I help someone expand their network? How can I help people to have a fulfilling life? how can I be someone else's mentor, right? What can I do? And not just in the like individual mentor, but what can I be doing to support other people? How can I be an ally for those around me? And know that reciprocity piece, we give a little, it comes back a zillion times over, especially as we have network effects behind them, right? So when you're building a community, and I know there might be the argument out there for the entrepreneurs especially, but that I need to make money. Like, I get it. I hear you. And I can't just be a mentor to everyone for free.
And nor should you be, because you will get exhausted. And then you're no good you're no good to anybody, especially yourself. And I've seen it and I felt it at times. So here's the good news about how do you make money from community. People pay attention to what they pay for. People pay attention to what they pay for. And going back millennia, people have paid for things that today we're like, oh my gosh, would someone even pay for something in our career or for our health or wellness or spiritual practice or our other important interests? And the reality is that people pay attention to what they pay for. Our engagement across Mighty for paid communities relative to free ones is 10x difference. So it turns out, now again, this is not saying charge everybody for everything, but as you identify your 1,000 or 100 or 10 true fans or the people that are ready to go deeper with you and with each other, you can absolutely charge for that. It can also be something where it's somebody buys something and it's included in. The point is that there is a set of people who want to pay for membership, for courses, for not just content, but the relationships, because that is the piece that is getting harder and harder to do, especially because we're all out of practice. So anyone's ability as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, to be that party host, to make those connections with a purpose. How is somebody able to, what's in it for them? What are the results and transformation they're going to get? What's the edge on being able to navigate rapid change, discover new opportunities, overcome challenges? Again, coming back to that hero's journey, it's about the challenges and the allies and being a part of something bigger than ourselves. So, to me, the question isn't, well, is anyone going to pay for this? Or is anyone going to leave social media? It's, what are we going to be able to do together? What are we going to be able to create together? What are we going to be able to define together? And questions, just to come back to that point, I mean, when you get a great question that lets you really reflect, and I always use it actually sounds kind of gross as I say it out loud, stew on it. That's the framing. That's the framing. So in the book, I talk about your future story and building your future story through a practice I call the Purpose 30. 30 minutes, 30 days, 6 questions. And the 6 questions I'll share here as we come to a close, really about how do you frame it up? And the framing is, it's 5 or 10 years in the future. You have made the discovery that you get to bring into the world whatever you can imagine and envision. So it's not about fighting against what's today. You have a blank canvas to create the future you want. Now, looking back from the future, how do you answer the following 6 questions? What are 3 things you can do in the future that you can't do today? What are 3 things you've accomplished? What are 3 things you've taken a stand for? Now, that is not political stand. This is, I'm going to stand up for everybody. It's what is important to you. It's a question designed to get to your values and the success and the way you get there. Then shifting from the individual to the larger community. what's different in the world for the better in the most unexpected or surprising ways. And the reason for that is that we are spending, again, 3.5 or more hours a day. And the content of social is typically bad news. It gets play. It's designed to outrage. It's designed to depress us. It is the things that we will take action on. So adding unexpected or surprising is there to basically say, no, fight that urge and stay in the space of a frame where it's like, community leads people to come together that wouldn't otherwise come together, and they discover a way to solve climate change. Very different to spend your time thinking about what is possible and what is positive than, I guess it's over. I guess it's done. We got to go to Mars. And then the last two questions are, who have you taken a stand? Who have you brought together? So after like 3 things you've taken a stand for, now we shift into the community of, who have you brought together? And this is my favorite question. This goes to that Dumbledore question, or role of host. What are 3 things they're able to do today that they weren't able to do in the future that they're not able to do today? So how have you not just helped yourself in what your life looks like, but true meaning and true impact comes from how you have helped others realize their fullest potential as well.
Yeah, definitely. The 6 questions, of course, and there's way more detail in the book as you go through this process. But, for everyone that you're listening,
we have not given away the entire book.
Yeah, but you're able to sit with this. And what I think is really important too is, building that habit. And you talk about the ritual of having your oat milk latte as you sit down and you make the cup and then you go to sit, and the triggers for your brain. Really interesting stuff that very much ties back into the behavioral science of building in that habit, learning from yourself, getting into the right mindset as you're going to think about these things. And when you do that continually, same kind of time, same context, same cue of the habit, then you just you can sink into the new mindset faster, and you get a little bit further each time. And so most people would hear those 6 questions and this is the plan, and you go, okay, so I did that once and I'm going to just jump in. But like you say, and I had a mentor at a early job at an advertising agency, that we were looking at taglines, and he said, spend an hour, write everything you can think of, and then put it away. And then the next day, spend an hour and then put it away. And the next day, an hour. And then on day 4, you might have something worth using. Sure. And so it's the same, right? You got to get all the surface level junk out of the way so you can really get to the heart of what those themes are and bringing it all together.
And this is the thing. It's like we spend so much time like on our to-do list. I think about that. It's like, clear your head. It's not about writing to-do lists. It's not about, bullet points. It's totally a time and place for those things. It is about clearing your mind so that you can wander, that you can explore. And sometimes I find I do a little bit more than 30 minutes, but don't tell anybody. But I do it because I found it so valuable. I now trust myself to just be able to sit there with my mind quiet. And if I don't have any good ideas, I'm not feeling it, I'm like, I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to have some more coffee. And without fail, I have been able to really see how these things, how ideas and how we are designed to make connections between, create patterns out of data points in ways that really require you to sit in a quiet space with pen and paper and not your notes app.
Yeah.
And that to me is really fun.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely lots of research about the value of writing things by hand and removing that distraction and everything, which I've talked about on the show before. But we don't have time to get into that now, and we don't need to, because everyone's going to go jump and learn more about you and get their copies of your book. And what's the best way for them to go do that now to learn more, to connect?
Yeah. So real simple, purpose.co. It has all the links to buy the book and a book trailer. We wanted to make it as simple as possible. So purpose.co, everything about the book and some other things we will be launching soon.
Ooh, ominous in the best possible way.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's the goal.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Gina. It was very delightful to chat with you, and I'm going to go have time on my Purpose 30 and keep, working on the Be Thoughtful Revolution.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you again to Gina Bianchini for joining me on the show today. What got your brain buzzing in today's conversation? For me, I'm a sucker for a great community with lots of engagement. I love questions and interaction. I love learning from others and having amazing conversations with people from all over the world. For that reason, it's likely not surprising that I was so drawn to Mighty when I found it was an option for the Be Thoughtful Revolution, a place to house information and make it easy to find, and to have this community that grows from my input, of course, but also from the members themselves. The ability for people to find others close to them to create their own meetups or book clubs or research opportunities or business partners. An opportunity for us all to grow together around shared interest in behavioral science and building better businesses. I'm continuing to build out the Be Thoughtful Revolution. Thank you to the more than 1,000 people who are already signed up in there. And if this sounded even remotely interesting to you, I would love to have you join us as well. There's a link for you to do so in the show notes, which can be found within the app you're listening to and at thebrainybusiness.com/263. I can't wait to see you in the Be Thoughtful Revolution. And thank you again to Gina Bianchini for joining me on the show today to talk about purpose and the importance of amazing, well-built communities. It was a delight to chat with and learn from you. Join me Tuesday for another Brainy episode of the Brainy Business Podcast. It's going to be a lot of fun. You don't want to miss it. Until then, thanks again for listening and learning with me. And remember to be thoughtful.
Thank you for listening to the Brainy Business Podcast. Melina offers virtual strategy sessions, workshops, and other services to help businesses be more brain-friendly. For more free resources, visit thebrainybusiness.com.